Even in an administration rife with incompetence, Trump's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is putting on full display why a reality TV actor probably shouldn't be in charge of our nation's transportation sector. Just today, it was reported that a Delta plane coming from Minnesota landed upside down in Toronto, as you can see from this image right here. And while this was all under the jurisdiction of the Transport Canada Civil Aviation, the TCCA, which is the Canadian equivalent of the FAA, this crash puts a particular focus on the raft of other airline crashes and collisions that have completely rocked Americans' trust in air travel. Here's a quick timeline of what happened leading up to this spate of crashes. On January 20th, Trump and Elon Musk pushed out the FAA administrator. They never bothered naming a replacement. Also on January 20th, Trump implemented a federal hiring freeze, which included air traffic controllers. That's important because we would eventually come to find out that the crash involved one air traffic controller doing the job that would normally require two people after the DC flight crashed. On January 21st, Trump disbanded the Aviation Security Advisory Committee and fired the TSA director. On January 22nd, Trump's White House posted that President Donald J. Trump ends DEI madness and restores excellence and safety within the Federal Aviation Administration. Sean Duffy was then confirmed as Transportation Secretary on January 28th, and that's when things started going downhill fast. On January 29th, we had the first commercial plane crash in 16 years in Washington, D.C. On January 31st, a Learjet crashed in Philadelphia. On February 5th, a Japan Airlines plane struck a Delta flight on a runway in Seattle. On February 6th, a Bering Air flight wrecked in Nome, Alaska. On February 10th, a plane crashed in Scottsdale, Arizona. On February 12th, a military fighter jet crashed in the San Diego Bay. And on February 16th, a plane crashed in Covington, Georgia. At this point, Americans should probably consider traveling by boat, considering this administration can't seem to keep planes in the air. But surely, given all of these problems, the Trump administration is scrambling to rectify the situation, right? Not so much. Hundreds of FAA employees were let go this weekend as planes are colliding on a near-daily basis, stretching the remaining employees even more thin than they were before. And I should remind you that the DC crash over the Potomac involved one air traffic controller in a job that would normally require two people. Cutting these jobs is a matter of life and death for people who are traveling the skies. Only the Trump administration and this clown car cabinet he assembled don't seem to care. Why? Because Elon would rather haphazardly cut costs, even if doing so means that more and more Americans die. At this point, why have air traffic controllers at all? Think about all the money that we could save. And granted, that'll just get funneled into SpaceX and Tesla at some point, but hey, at least Doge can tweet about waste, fraud, and abuse and get some likes on Twitter. And frankly, what's more important than that? And in case you were wondering what our transportation secretary was doing during all of this, well, here's a video he posted yesterday.
All right, we're about to get on Air Force One. I got Patrick and John Paul. There's just the back end of it. Heading up to Daytona for the 500. Suit and tie, beautiful day. Hope the rain stays out. But these guys, first time Air Force One, the president is about to get here, so we're going to get on, get rolling on Daytona. About 30-minute flight, 25-minute flight. It's going to be great. Hope there's Patrick. He's jumping. All right, see you guys later.
Just so we're clear, while planes are colliding or crashing on a near-daily basis, what the Transportation Secretary is doing is joyriding on Air Force One to go watch the Daytona 500? Now, one might think that the guy in charge of our nation's transportation might, give a shit that air travel is becoming more and more dangerous by the day and put that above taking a taxpayer-funded vacation to watch cars racing. But hey, something, make America great again. Second of all, isn't the mission of this administration to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse? Anyone know what it cost the President of the United States and his cabinet to do a flyover at the Daytona 500? It is hundreds of thousands of dollars at least in fuel and security and delays. All the while, we're supposed to be thanking this White House for slashing Medicaid benefits to pay for all this stuff? Got it. And to that point, I've got to ask, will Sean Duffy be reimbursing taxpayers for using government-funded travel to fly to the Daytona 500? Because here's what Fox's Brett Baier said to Pete Buttigieg almost exactly 2 years ago.
You also brought your husband, Chasten, on a military aircraft to attend a sporting event in Netherlands. Was that
That's quite a spin to put on.
No. But I mean, was that reimbursed? Because that was one of the controversies with price.
I led a presidential delegation to support American wounded warriors and injured service members, the Invictus Games, as has been tradition for many years. I led the American delegation as one of the great honors of my time in this job. And the diplomatic protocol on a presidential delegation is that the principal is often accompanied by their spouse. It was a great trip. It was incredible. It was also a few weeks into the Ukraine war. So we had a chance at the U.S. Embassy to engage with the Ukrainian competitors, also wounded service members. Some of them went from the games back to the battlefield to fight for their country. I also took the opportunity to sit with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands to look at port infrastructure, Dutch port infrastructure. But here's what I want you to understand. Before me, it was the Secretary of the Army under President Trump who took that trip with his wife. Before that, it was Mrs. Trump as First Lady who went to the Invictus Games. Before that, Mrs. Obama did the same thing.
Sure.
And I guess the question on my mind is, if no one's raising questions about why Secretary Esper and his wife led that delegation, and as well they should have, then why is it any different when it's me and my husband?
Understood.
So I'm curious, will Brett Baier ask the same thing of Sean Duffy now? Do we pay taxes so that Trump and his buddies can go on little vacations for free? And should they be vacationing when planes can't seem to stay in the sky? Sure is weird that Pete took so much heat when there was never a problem with aviation safety, and yet now that aviation safety is a disaster, Fox and its hosts don't seem to be all that concerned. Truly one of life's great mysteries. But hey, with all of that said, I think Secretary Duffy finally has a handle on things. He took to Twitter, writing, "America deserves safe, state-of-the-art travel, and President Trump has ordered that I deliver a new world-class air traffic control system that will be the envy of the world. To do that, I need advice from the brightest minds in America. I'm asking for help from any high-tech American developer or company that is willing to give back to our country." Because nothing says competence quite like soliciting job applications from Twitter.com. And I gotta say, it sure is strange that we even need new people considering everything was totally fine before Trump and Elon took an axe to the federal government, before they fired a bunch of department heads, disbanded the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, implemented a hiring freeze, and cleaned house at the FAA, all the while beating their chests as having restored aviation security. Instead of congratulating themselves on ending DEI and restoring that safety, perhaps they should consider re-implementing it, considering planes actually managed to land safely at their destinations when DEI was in place. Of course, that won't stop them from blaming DEI anyway, which led to this exchange on CNN.
DOT is a big department. The only DEI office that exists in the whole department was at the FAA. Now that existed up to a week ago, that's now gone.
So, again, you alluded to this earlier, that the idea of the DEI expanded the number of people trying to get into the air traffic control training, not necessarily those who graduated. The head of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association says that all air traffic controllers are subject to rigorous training and that, quote, the standards to achieve certification have nothing to do with race or gender or anything else. So it sounds like you're saying that there isn't any evidence right now that this affected the accident because it's so early. You'll let us know if there is any, but I just don't know of any evidence. And if there is some, please tell us that DEI had anything to do with the tragedy itself.
What I'm talking about is the mission of safety. And on your airplanes, Jake, or your air traffic controllers, or anyone that works at CNN or anywhere else, they do want the best and the brightest.
Well, I gotta say, thank God DEI has been ended, because can you imagine how dangerous air travel might be if DEI was still in place? Could you imagine how many planes would be crashing? I'll tell you what, we sure did dodge a bullet. Phew. The reality is that Trump rammed through a bunch of unqualified nominees to lead departments that they were incapable of leading, and this is what happens as a result. This right here is the consequence. Donald Trump owns all of this. Elon Musk owns all of this. And all of these spineless Republican senators who greenlit Sean Duffy own all of this. These people are such fucking cowards that they felt it was more important to kowtow to Daddy Trump than actually take their advice and consent roles seriously. And now, we can barely go a day without a plane crashing somewhere in this country. Maybe next time these Republicans should try and disconnect their lips from Donald Trump's ass and focus on the people that they're supposed to be in office representing for a change, and then the whole country might be better off. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.